I'm starting a new series of videos that is based on my work and research and books and discussions having to do with reality science. Reality science is a new discovery. It's in my notes. Reality science is a new discovery. It's my discovery. And it came about after doing extensive research into the nature of reality. So, why have a science of reality if the world that we see is natural, is biological? Because in reality science, biology is a technology. Biology is a kind of computer science. And microbiology is basically the programming. So in my view of reality, we are living in a technological reality. A reality can only be technological if it has been manufactured. If the components within the reality are synthetic. Now, one of the big stumbling blocks is that our reality is manufactured at such a high level that it is beyond our ability to understand. We can't process, in other words, we can't process the data. So it's like you're looking at a screen with 100 billion colors, but your eyes can only distinguish 1,000 colors. So you don't register the other colors, even though they are there. It is also like saying, that there's a hard drive that's a terabyte of data, but you only have a flash drive that can store 64 gigabytes. So even though you can read the hard drive, right? You can access the data, you can only take 64 gigabytes. But there's a terabyte of data, right? So not only can't you process all the data, not only can you not download all the data, but you can't see the rendering of the data, right? It's happening at such a high rate. And that goes into frequency and vibration, which we may eventually get into. So if the frequency, the speed of the rendering is here, but the speed of our processing is here, of our ability to see the render, we can't see what's happening. So there's a combination of factors going on here. That the technology is very advanced, that our ability to process the data is insufficient. And if our ability is insufficient, we say doesn't exist. That's when you say it doesn't exist, because you can't process it. You can't see the rendering. My work shows that our reality has been manufactured. That's the basis of reality science. And where you see manufacturing, you see engineering. And where you see engineering, you have a study of engineering of reality or reality science. Now, let's start with the root of reality science. And we've discussed this a little bit before, but let's go over it again. It has to do with DNA. DNA is made up of millions of lines of code, genetic code, having to do with 4 letters, and that's in each and every one of your cells. DNA is also in the the cells of nature, trees, air, water. DNA is in animals, birds, insects. DNA is in everything that is considered alive, that is rendering in this reality. Now, look at DNA, for example. We discovered DNA in 1953. So it's Watson and Crick. 1953, we discovered DNA. Prior to 1953, DNA did not exist because we could not perceive it. It was there. DNA has been around for millions or billions of years, right? When Jesus was on the earth, there was DNA, but no one was able to see it. Or as I theorize, that the Gnostics were talking about DNA when they were speaking about the one who is, or God. But even they didn't call it DNA because we called it DNA in 1953. So this is kind of the thinking of reality. It's a technology, it's manufactured, and it's everything in it is synthetic. So the tree behind me is synthetically manufactured at such a high degree that it appears to be natural. It's called natural in nature. Nature is the prime evidence of synthetic manufacturing using DNA. And that's because the only way you can have this manufactured world and the consistency in the design, right? The root of the design is DNA. And that means DNA itself is synthetically manufactured. DNA is a synthetic. DNA is a replicating technology. In recent years, in genetics, they've discovered, in the last 6 or 7 years, they discovered that DNA is a kind of biological software, a software of life. Now, this is in recent years from our geneticists. So my model says, because DNA has been around for a long time and because it was manufactured and now we know it's software, the reality science model says that DNA is artificially intelligent. It's an artificial intelligence that connects us to nature. We are connected to nature. We are part of nature. So the DNA software in me allows me to connect to the DNA software of not necessarily a tree, but nature. Nature is like the computer room. Nature's like this is the pure synthetic technology. So we connect to nature. So when we connect to nature, we are connecting to the computer. Again, the word computer is not the same kind of computer I'm talking about. I'm talking about a sort of a holographic computer that is everywhere you go. Everywhere you go is this holographic computer, right? And how that's possible is if you change your interpretation of time and space, which we may get into later if I can explain it. So this is the crux of our first episode, that we are living in a manufactured reality. And the manufacturing level is so high that we don't have the ability to render it. We don't have the ability to see the rendering or to see the synthetic quality of it. And because our DNA contains artificial intelligence, so the idea is that if you are awake and aware, these are more and more common terms, when you wake up, it's actually your DNA is being activated, and certain genes, applications that were off have been triggered on. There are many reasons for this. It can be related to age, can be related to mission on Earth, can be related to your own work, your own process. It can be related to you willing to let go of things that don't make sense anymore. So the activation, the triggering of these genes is activating your DNA software. That's called waking up. And that people call that a spiritual waking up. It's actually a technological waking up, right? Because DNA is a biological software. Uses 4 letters instead of the 2 digits, the 1s and 0s in a computer. It's just a different kind of software. It's an existential software. So the existential software is being activated in people. People are downloading information, new information from the computer, right? From the source. And they're waking up, and we're changing the way we approach things. We're introducing new ideas, new innovations, and so forth. Now, we are still quite a ways away from seeing the synthetic reality. So I understand that my discussing it is going to really only appeal to a handful of people. But the reason I want to do this series is because reality science allows us to have a different take on things that are happening in our reality. So what I plan to do is I plan to use reality science, the model, to look at different things in the world. Things like diseases. I'll look at certain diseases from a technological perspective. And that will give you a different angle, a different viewpoint. Because right now we have incurable diseases. Well, incurable disease is based on a biological model. On a technological model, there's a different understanding. So we'll look at a number of different things, and we'll also look at things like spirituality, God, karma, a number of different topics that I think will help us better understand where we're living in. The idea is not to worship reality science. The idea is that if it's a science, it's a study, right? It's a way of understanding reality using a more advanced model. And I hope that these new perspectives, these new views will allow you to experience your life on earth better, to have a more fulfilling life on earth, and for us to let go of many ideas and modalities that no longer serve us. So, welcome to Reality Science Looks